I'd like to take you someplace very old, a place of eternal darkness, a wonderland of shapes and colors. I'd like to take you here.
Caves have always had a deep connection to history and nature. There, however, are two types of history, natural and written. There are many types of caves. The cave is determined by how they were formed. There are solution caves, ice caves, lava caves, glacier caves, and more. Solution caves are formed when water erodes limestone, leaving tunnels that the water continues to eat away at, leading them to get wider and turn into a cavern. This process can take millions of years. There is roughly a pound of limestone in every 1,000 gallons of water that runs through a cavern. Once the cave gets to a stable condition where it stops carving away the rock, formations begin to grow. There are many types of formations in caves, such as stalactites, stalagmites, flowstone, and columns. The average rate of growth in fantastic caverns is 1 cubic inch every 100 years. Fantastic Caverns is a natural wonder, as is any other cave. However, no two caves are alike. All caves are different. Some were formed differently, some have different formations, and some are driven through. America is home to 50 to 60,000 caves, and only 150 are tourable. Missouri has roughly 20 show caves throughout the state. The first tour cave in Missouri was Mark Twain Cave in Hannibal. Tour caves in Missouri have about 150,000 visitors per year, bringing in roughly $1 to $5 million annually. There are only 4 caves that are able to be driven through due to wide enough passages and flat floors. There is a cave in France, Italy, Spain, and the United States. Discovery is what sets caves apart, some from mining, taking a walk, or your dog. A hunting journey in 1862 took an unexpected turn when a bloodhound named Juno began chasing a small animal into a breach in the hillside. His owner, John Grier Knox, chased after Juno, not knowing where he went. John, being led only by the sound of Juno howling and whining, discovered the hole and went in for his dog. John crawled on his stomach through an 18-inch hole for about 10 feet before realizing he could stand up. He found Juno and quickly left the newly discovered cave. John would go home and think about what he had just found. Returning with only a candle and a lighter, he crawled back through the hole to the point where he could stand. He lit his candle and was amazed by what he had found. John Knox was now the owner of a natural wonder. Mr. Knox, however, could not celebrate this discovery, nor could he tell anyone what he had found. The American Civil War brought turbulent times to the country. Fighting was happening less than 20 miles away, and John could not let his cave be used for any military advantage. Knox, therefore, covered the entrance and kept the cave a secret for 5 years. Caves were a hot commodity during the Civil War. Not only did they provide shelter and storage for armies, but also helped fight the war. John Knox knew if the Union or Confederate armies knew of the cave, they would have taken it, taken his livestock to feed the soldiers, taken his home and barn for living quarters, and if he refused, they would have taken his life as well. John Knox would keep his cave a secret for 5 years, until 1867. John Knox would post an ad in the Missouri Weekly Patriot, looking for people to explore and map his cave. On February 27, 1867, John Knox would have a knock on his door. Upon opening it, he found that 12 women, all members of the Springfield Athletic Club, also known as the Springfield Women's Club, with ages spanning from 28 to just 12 years old, were ready to take on the task. The ladies decided they wanted to be remembered as the first to map the cave, and wrote their names on a wall. A letter, dated February 28, 1867, was written and posted in the local newspaper.
On Thursday, last the 11th, in company of several of our townsmen, I paid a visit to the newly discovered cave upon the farm of Mr. Knox, 7 miles northwest of Springfield. It was my wish to have given you an account sooner at the present, but circumstances which could not make subserve my own interests have compelled a delay until the present. The day was by no means propitious, and the dropping rain would have thrown a damper, indeed, over less enthusiastic company. But mounted for the expedition, we went upon our way, and amply we were repaid for all our trouble in the serious vexation of a thorough wetting. Unfortunately, the entrance is not capacious, but only significantly large to admit a person of your humble correspondent with difficulty. I am happy to inform you, however, that at an early day, Mr. Knox will open the door so that ingress and egress will no longer be difficult. A few feet only defending, and you will reach the Vespasian Amphitheater, decorated by columns of stalagmite, nothing disparaged by comparison with wrought marble. Everywhere you are confronted with crystals as white as the driven snow. The formation, as other caves, is purely calcareous, reminding one by its continual yet uniform dripping of creation's long and steady process. The greatness of its proportions fill the mind with awe, and the imagination is lost in compilation. Having traversed several miles, we reached its terminus, and we were delighted at the several fountains of living, limp water, which we discussed, the largest being in width about 8 feet and about 12 feet deep. We have visited many caves before, but never seen anything as large, and need say never have seen an equal amount of saltpeter on earth. It is certainly a mammoth cavern, and I will predict ere long be a place of resort, only equaled by the Mammoth Cave of Kentucky.
In the year 1880, Thomas Edison would create the first light bulb. Only a few years later, the cave would install a steam-powered lighting system. People would come from far and near just to witness the new technology. John Knox would pass away on November 2, 1891, leaving the property to his family. He was buried at the Murray Cemetery in Willard, Missouri. In 1919, the property was sold, and the name was changed from Knox to Percy's Cave to honor a son who had died in the First World War. In the early 1920s, Prohibition was driving people to the brink, leading them to find ways to get around the law. An underground speakeasy would be put in with a full bar, gambling table, dance floor, and a grand piano. Only 3 years later, the speakeasy would be shut down as a result of a shooting outside the cave. The sheriff at the time was rumored to frequent the speakeasy, but when the shots were fired, it was hard to ignore, so he was pushed to shut it down. In 1924, the cave was sold to the Ku Klux Klan. The Klan would use the cave as a meeting place and even built a clubhouse on the surface as a second meeting area. Not much is known about their activities in the cave, but in 1930, they sold the property. Sometime in the 1930s, the Great Depression led to tours declining, and the owner was forced to come up with a new form of income. Several mushroom beds were put in near the entrance. Button-top mushrooms were grown throughout the Great Depression to help the owner get through the hard times. In 1941, a neighbor across the street wanted to put in a new well. He knew about the cave and didn't want to hit it. He got together with the landowner and they got to measure. They had hoped to miss the cave by about 10 feet. They had accidentally missed and landed right in the cave. They would drill another 20 feet until they finally hit water. They did not know, however, that it was a wet weather spring, only holding water a few months out of the year. When it was first installed, it was black cast iron, but today it has been embraced and covered with calcite, making it a perfect measuring stick for growth. In the 1950s, the property was sold again, and the name was changed to Fantastic Caverns due to the sheer beauty of the formations. A local radio program called Farmarama would build a stage and host and record concerts on Saturday nights that would be played on NBC Radio. Stars such as Buck Owens, Ray Price, Lefty Frizzell, Tom T. Hall, Bobby Bare, Bobby Lewis, and other local celebrities would play in the auditorium room. The Presley Country Jubilee got their start in the cave before moving to Branson to have their own theater. They are still performing to this day. In 1962, Jeeps would begin being used to drive guests through the cave. By the late 1960s, Farmarama had to end due to congestion and tours making more money than the concerts. In the 1970s, a theatrical lighting professional would be brought out. He determined that it would look better if the lights were moved from the ceiling to the ground. In the 1990s, the Campbell family would purchase the property for the final time. In 2009, the wrestler Chris Jericho would direct a rated R horror movie called Albino Farm in the cave. Then, there's today. Jeeps and guides continue to give tours. The cave is still growing, and history is made every day. If you are ever in the area and see one of the millions of billboards, make sure to stop by and enjoy nature at work
in historic, fantastic caverns.